and the guest mode scene that triggered without me. The notification was too cheerful for what it meant. HomeKit guest mode turned on. It slid over my lock screen at 9:14 p.m., confetti blue and proud, like the app had baked a cake. Underneath, a line I'd never seen, triggered from living room iPad. I was rinsing Basil like an optimist. Our apartment was doing its small, good noises. Refrigerator proud to be competent. The ugly lamp in the small room throwing its honest yellow into the corner like a witness waiting to be sworn. I stared at my phone until guest mode stopped sounding like a feature and started being a sentence. I didn't turn it on. I was standing in the kitchen in socks that didn't match, waiting for pasta water to do what physics promised. Lena had texted at 6 with our hyphen, studio late, don't wait. She builds projection that coerces walls into keeping promises. I make rooms sound like they wish they'd told the truth sooner. We are two people whose jobs punish dishonesty. It's a funny thing to realize in a kitchen. I tapped the banner. The home app opened into the smug map of our space. Tiles labeled living, kitchen, small room, bedroom, hall. Guest mode was a scene I'd built for my sister that turns the lights civilized, disables the alarm chime, sets the thermostat to company won't notice we're cheap. It had not been touched in 6 months. A checkmark glowed next to it like a compliment I didn't trust. Below, the log made no effort to be kind. Activated from living room iPad. Then the cascade, hall lights 70%, small room lamp 40%, motion alerts snoozed for 2 hours. I could have called. We have the small room for that. Lamp ugly enough to make honesty look good, rug forgiving enough to catch an argument without bruising. Instead, I put the phone face down next to 2 empty glasses I'd set out on reflex and hated myself for the reflex. I turned the burner down because heat prefers patience. Somewhere down the hall, a neighbor's key rattled a lock like a nervous throat. At 9:27, our lock turned. The hallway wrote its thin yellow under the door. Lena stepped in with hair pinned, the fatigue she gets when she's wrestled a room into behaving, and the expression she wears when she sees my face attempting weather. She set her bag on the chair that knows too much and did the bravest thing I know. She came close without pretending this wasn't what it was. "You saw it," she said. "Guest mode," I said. "From the living room iPad. The app thinks we have manners." She exhaled without trying to make me comfort her. "Kitchen or small room?" she asked. The question is a life raft. The kitchen is where knives live and mercy can be reached. The small room is where the ugly lamp keeps our rules taped to the back of a takeout menu because sacred text should be cleanable. "Here," I said, "let the refrigerator overhear us." She leaned both palms on the island the way she steadies a project when a sponsor gets ideas. "Thea wanted me to see the annex lobby after hours," she said. "He thinks light tells the truth when it gets to pretend it's illicit. He asked if he could drop by to show me how the dimmer misbehaves. I told him to schedule daylight and bring a supervisor. He asked if the room could be made to feel generous. I turned guest mode on and told him to wait in the hall." "You kissed him," I said. It wasn't an accusation. It was a noun we'd learned to pick up first. "I did," she said, and didn't flinch. "Once, in the doorway where the air is unambitious. It tasted like italics. I left him with a wall that wasn't impressed and walked down our stairs so I could come up them again." "What did you want?" I asked, making space inside the word. "To test a switch," she said. "The one labeled ruin and call it clarity. It still clicks if I press hard. It doesn't thrill me. I can negotiate with it. That's not virtue, that's practice." "Do you want him?" I asked, because the question costs less now than later. "No," she said. I want an hour where my face isn't a tool and the ceiling doesn't need me. He impersonates that hour well. You build it here. We stood with the basil pretending to judge. I took our rule sheet from the fridge, the back of the menu streaked with oil and ink, and uncapped the pen that lives in the sugar bowl. Truth before scenes, I wrote. Lena nodded and, in her careful hand, added beneath. If automation puts on hospitality without you, my mouth speaks the guest list here first. I wrote, if you think you have to kiss someone to learn you don't want them, tell me before your body tries to publish. She underlined tell twice, the way love dresses as a warning when it intends to keep you. Storm or quiet, she asked. The tremor in it was not apology, it was fatigue refusing to be dramatic. Quiet, I said, then whether we mop. We ate pasta neither of us needed because chairs ask for commitment. After, she came around the island and set her mouth under my ear where grammar resigns. My hands remembered where they belong without me instructing them. Both hips, that small square at the top of her spine that resets catastrophes. She stepped back onto the counter with the competence of someone who builds physics for a living, and I found us. And we were careful because spectacle is for rooms with witnesses. Greedy because yes is a budget, and this is what we spend it on. We stopped while stopping still meant tomorrow would want us. We leaned our foreheads together until breath made furniture of itself again. In the morning, home tried to be a cousin. Would you like to welcome your guest again? It chirped. I laughed into my coffee like a person who has decided superstition can become grace. I turned the iPad to face the wall and set a passcode we share. Lena forwarded the email she'd sent at midnight, no more after hours, photos at noon, boardroom or nothing. Thea replied with the sentence men practice until it fits, understood. He CC'd the building manager the way penance wants witnesses. A week of competence followed. I tuned a black box back to human. Lena coaxed a museum wall into letting noon be noon. At 1:12 a.m., when my chest performed its ritual of auditioning disasters, she pressed my hand to the top of her spine and said, quiet. And the house obeyed like it remembered who pays rent. We added another line to the menu because rules are how we turn storms household-sized. If a room wants us, it can wait until the basil believes in itself. Of course, the city is petty. 3 days later, a push slid across my wrist while I was hunting for the lemon zester. Guest mode turned on. Snoozing motion alerts for 2 hours. I stood very still and listened. The apartment sounded like an apartment. I walked into the hall and found the motion camera blinking the way machines do when they're too proud of themselves. The log showed activation from the living room iPad, and the living room occupancy sensor hadn't seen anything but us learning to dance. Lena found me there and put a hand at the back of my neck, a small pressure that makes my ribs widen enough for oxygen. I turned it on to see if the room would forgive me, she said. Then I turned it off because the lamp looked at me like a person. We failed anyway because human is a verb. A dry cleaner called to confirm alterations on a black silk that was none of my business. I picked it up and set the bag on the chair we keep for conversations we don't want to have standing. Lena touched the garment like a meteor that had decided to become a pet. Some materials want trouble, she said. Some are for kitchen floors. That night she wore the silk with slipper socks and said storm like a toast. We obeyed her. We stopped when stopping meant tomorrow would arrive hungry. The lamp failed to be pretty and triumphed at honesty. Theo learned humility like a second language. At a donor thing where wine auditioned for personality, he nodded correctly at both of us and said to Lena, "The lobby sings." "We tuned the audience," she said, and I forgave his first act for the 3 seconds it took to behave. The app kept trying to be a diary. "A memory for you," photos sang one morning, stitching our kitchen into 30 seconds of sincerity. The basil pretending to be immortal, my stupid hands drying a plate like it had attempted something brave. I let it play. It didn't require music. The room already had ours. Then, because devices marry badly to truth, a new banner. HomeKit suggestion: turn on guest mode when Theo arrives. I stood very still and read it twice. Suggestion based on routine, it explained, as if routine were a character witness. Lena looked over my shoulder at the screen and made a face that made me believe in law. Delete suggestion, she said. We did. We added a rule so obvious I was embarrassed we needed it. If the house learns a friend's name, it forgets it when we ask. We built newer rituals because ritual is how you instruct a room in piety. If panic texts us, we give it 15 minutes on the ugly lamp's rug and then a kiss precise enough to make jealousy into an extra. If a platform begs for access, we ask who benefits. If an evening wants to audition in a lobby, we charge it daylight. One afternoon, we took folding chairs to the roof because roofs are honest and balconies have read too many essays. The sky refused metaphor. Lena said, "Don't start without me," like a person entering a witness stand. I said, "Then come here," and we practiced quiet until quiet asked for weather. Last night Home tried one more joke. Guest mode turned on. It announced while we were both at the table. The log said, "Triggered by schedule." I'd forgotten I'd set it for my sister Thursdays. We laughed the laugh of people who have earned boredom, turned it off, turned to one another and designed a better scene. "Storm or quiet?" she asked, stealing the good mug as if there were any other way to begin. "Both," I said, "in the order you like." She stepped into me with the ungentle confidence of someone who has decided to be alive in this house on a weekday. The basil tried a new leaf. The ugly lamp kept failing to be handsome. We did the work that turns rooms back into houses. We stopped while stopping was extravagant. Then, because good liturgy repeats itself, we taped one more line to the menu, crooked because tape is human. If a scene triggers without us, it isn't a scene we're in. The refrigerator hummed like it was proud to be included. The apartment learned our names again. And when my phone buzzed with another suggestion, some app begging to turn the lights down for people we hadn't invited, I pressed decline, and Lena kissed my neck where grammar gives up, and the house, bless it, did not clap. It held.